Please welcome the distinguished panelists for innovative tools to improve a digital future.
I guess it's a responsibility of the moderator to introduce the panelists. So let me turn, I would just mention the names and titles of our panelists before starting the discussion. So we have with us a very high level and remarkable panel today. First with Her Excellency Ohood al-Roumi, Minister of State for Government Development and Future from the United Arab Emirates. We also have the Minister of the Economy of Mexico, Secretary Tatiana Clouthier, who should be able to join us soon. We have His Excellency Tan Kiat Ho, Minister of State, Ministry of Communication and Information, and Ministry of National Development of Singapore. We have Kate Wilson, CEO of Digital Impact Alliance. And we have Kent Walker, Senior Vice President of Google. Welcome to you all. So without further ado, let me, and since we have only 25 minutes ahead of us, proceed with the first very generic question addressed to all of you. And the challenge for you will be to answer that question in 1 minute or less. And here is the question. In a post-COVID global economy, the acceleration of digital transformation is a given. What are, according to you, the main challenges that stand in the way of emerging economies to reach full economic potential and be ready for the future? And what are, in your view, the biggest opportunities they could seize in the next 5 years? So a long question for short answers. Let me respectfully first turn to Minister Ohood al-Roumi from the UAE.
Thank you, Bruno, and it's really great pleasure to be among you today for the launch of this new but much needed indicators. We as governments, we need a new set of global indicators and measurements that are action-oriented, that help us and support us in decision-making. I would like to answer this question from the government perspective. I think digital is an opportunity, but also a challenge for governments. It's an opportunity because it presents a golden chance for us as a government to get rid of legacy systems, the old bureaucracy that we have in the government, and disrupt government from within. But it's also a challenge because it needs a different mindset. It's not about using technology to do government work as is. It's about shifting the mindset from doing digital to being digital. This mindset, or this new digital mindset, will need us to rethink, reimagine all our systems as a government, whether it's legislations, laws, whether it's services, whether it's policies, or even structures. And if done properly, this will help us as government to move faster, be more effective and productive, but at the same time, be proactive and responsive to creating the right digital ecosystem that will foster the digital economy and create job opportunities. We cannot do this by ourselves as government. We need to tap into the private sector, create purposeful partnerships with them, tap into their resources, into their capabilities, into their skills to help us accelerate the transformation. Also, we need collaboration among governments and nations digitally, because this will build global resilience, help us build back better and faster, and also be ready for the future.
Thank you very much, Excellency. It's already some very powerful keywords, huh? Mindset, ecosystem, job creation, partnership. Turning now to Mr. Tan from Singapore. Challenges and opportunities ahead for Singapore and emerging countries.
Thank you, Bruno. Firstly, congratulations to Google and Portland's Institute for the launch of this very important Readiness Index, and very happy to be on this panel with fellow distinguished panelists and friends. This is a very difficult question, so at the risk of oversimplifying, I would say it's two sides of a coin of digitalization. For us, the greatest challenge, I think, for Singapore, and I believe many emerging economies, is really the digital divide, and how we work together to bridge the digital divide so we don't end up with some winners and many losers, because this will over time cause economies to lose their vibrancy and societal cohesion to fracture. And over time, the pressure will build up for countries to turn inwards and close up. And we've all seen this story play out during globalization. And that is why in Singapore, the way we think about it is about putting in place the foundation to support broad-based digitalization. Firstly, to unlock economic potential of all firms, large and small. And secondly, to empower all our people, the young, the not so young among us, and those who are savvy, and those who are less tech savvy, to really seize opportunities. So in terms of greatest opportunities and challenges, I would say it's really about making everybody come along, companies and firms and people, to seize opportunities in a digital age.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fan. So additional dimensions here about inequalities and inclusion as critically important. I'm told that our friend, the Ministry of Economy of Mexico, is having problems and may not be able to join us. She would also, of course, be totally welcome at any point these difficulties happen to be resolved. So let me turn to Kate Wilson with the same question about opportunities and challenges.
Thanks so much, Bruno, and congratulations to you and to Google on the release of the report. It is really excellent reading. I wanted to sort of break it down into kind of 5 easy to remember, I guess, mnemonics of things that we see when we work with governments. First and foremost is governments are really still struggling to figure out which products to choose. So I call these my 5 Ps. So which products are actually ready, will stand the test of time, can be easily adaptable, and can actually be directed by them. The second is what both ministers have already addressed, people challenges. We have both challenges in terms of the people who are choosing the products, as well as the capability of people to sort of be able to maintain those products, as well as citizens all feeling comfortable with those individual products. Our third P, which often doesn't get talked about, is the procurement and sort of the pricing challenges that come into place as you start to put into place large-scale national digital stacks. The fourth really goes into the policies. How are we actually ensuring that we are protecting everyone as we are putting these in place? And fifth, and certainly not least, as a friend of mine from Robert Opp from UNDP says, maybe the most important overarching one, is actually the politics of this all. Is there actually already political will within the country to take on this national digital transformation and have citizens and the government built together a sense of trust where the digital tools are actually embraced and not rejected, particularly as we begin to collect new data and use that data to solve big societal problems? We really need to make sure that that's done with a sense of trust. So those 5 Ps are for us sort of where we see some of the challenges, but I also think they offer the opportunity for us to begin to look at crafting a new relationship and reimagining, as Minister of State Tan said, you know, really reimagine the relationship between society and its people and their government.
Thank you very much, Kate, for this very clear description of the 5 Ps, which allows me to turn to our 4th P, our 4th panelist, Kent Walker, with the same question on challenges and opportunities for emerging countries.
Great. Thank you, Bruno. It's an honor to join all of you today. While the pandemic devastated some emerging economies around the world, it's also shown the many ways technology can be helpful. And we want to make sure that that digital adoption we've seen translates into meaningful long-term economic growth. That's why we developed a digital sprinters framework, and the Future Readiness Index is built on that framework. It's shown that by prioritizing the 4 areas mentioned in the video, we can really make that digital growth a long-term benefit for everybody. So let me take them one at a time. First, investing in physical infrastructure. 57% of the global population is still unable to access the internet. There's an awful lot of room for improvement, and there's a real opportunity there. Second, investing in human capital, empowering people, building digital skills in inclusive ways can really unlock entrepreneurial energy and lift communities. One quick example, there's a remarkable woman named Renata in Brazil. She was in an abusive marriage. She discovered Krav Maga. It's an Israeli martial arts for self-defense. She became the first instructor in her region. And then she took a Grow with Google training, a digital training that helped her expand her business and teach others in her community, which reflects the exponential power of giving even one person the right tools. Third, investing in technological innovation. Tools like AI or cloud computing shouldn't be luxuries that benefit only developed countries. We need to prioritize innovation in emerging economies as well. As Her Excellency mentioned, emerging economies in some ways have an advantage. Rather than having to rebuild or replace outdated systems, they can start with modern digital tools. Just as some countries that started without extensive landline phone systems were able to go straight to advanced mobile phone deployment. There's some advantages in being able to go straight to AI and cloud-based tools. Fourth and finally, competitiveness. A regulatory ecosystem that values innovation and open markets directly contributes to rising living standards and international competitiveness. So the index that's being released today makes it clear that countries can combine these elements to have really significant opportunities. Since we released the framework, the research by Alpha Beta found that the digital progress can generate $3.4 trillion in economic values in the 16 countries that were studied by 2030 alone. So we hope that the release of the Future Readiness Index will help spark more actions by governments and by the private sector to take advantage of these opportunities.
Thank you very much, Kent. And again, the four components highlighted earlier converge so much toward addressing each of the keywords we've been hearing. That no doubt it is, as I said before, a simple and powerful idea. Let me now turn to each of you with a more precise question. And again, I will respectfully first turn to Her Excellency Ohood al-Roumi, because the UAE is a very remarkable example in terms of addressing the issues related to the future. Excellency, you've been named the Minister of State for Government Development and Future. But the UAE's relationship with the concept of future readiness is not new. The UAE has been one of the most future-oriented countries on earth for a while. What is behind this future-centric mindset in the UAE government?
Thank you, Bruno. Actually, the future thinking is not new for the United Arab Emirates. I think it's embedded in the DNA of us as a nation. And 50 years ago, our founding fathers had, even before the sustainable development became widely recognized or used, had this vision of transforming the desert into green. And against all odds, and the advice of most international experts telling them that it was impossible, they've done it. They've charted a new course and transforming the green in the desert into the green that we enjoy today. This mindset moved on in everything that we do or as a government. So I have many examples to share with you, Bruno, but just a recent example. It's not just a recent, but it's related to the recent development. 10 years ago, the government decided to start the Smart Learning program. This program challenged the status quo. It was not welcomed. It has some strong resistance from teachers and parents. Why do we need a smart learning program? Our schools are good, we have the infrastructure. But because of that proactive decision that the government took 10 years ago, our schools continued without any interruption during the pandemic. We are always trying to enhance our readiness for the future. Our motto in the UAE is that we don't wait for the future, but we create it. We try to see what are the challenges that we can mitigate or opportunities that we can utilize. For example, last year, we have a minister for food security. Water security was added to her portfolio because we know water will be one of the main challenges in the world, especially in our region. Our Minister of AI is also the Minister of Remote Work Application because we know the future will be built around new work norms. And last week, we announced the 10 guiding principles for the UAE in the next 50 years. It is around creating dynamic economy, enhancing our digital competitiveness, and also nurturing talent and human capital. So it is a motto that we work by, that we live by, and we would like to also make it sustainable and make it continue for the future generations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellency. I think this practical example you just gave us is indeed very key to understand how what Mr. Tan mentioned before can be generated. That is, getting a society behind the leaders to subscribe to an idea. And clearly, education is such a critical area that we can all learn from this kind of practical examples. And since I mentioned you, Mr. Tan, let me now pass the baton to you with another challenging question. It's clear that accelerated transformation will now have an immediate impact on jobs. Okay, several panelists have mentioned that already. One can imagine that steps would need to be taken to strengthen skills, in particular digital skills, and that's a critical element of digital sprinters. Improving formal education is essential. We all know the record of Singapore in PISA and other elements tracking formal education, but so are the strategies to promote lifelong learning, including reskilling and upskilling on the job, basically. What is Singapore's approach to that?
Thanks, Bruno, for the very good question. And I'd like to build on what Her Excellency Roumi has said about the mindset and what Kate and Kent also mentioned. The common theme that came out was really around people and human capital. I think as like many countries, especially Singapore, I think we find it most acutely a constraint for us. We're a small country without any natural resources, and people is the only resource that we have, and it has been so for many, many decades. So in terms of thinking about human capital, especially in a very important rapid digitalization era in the coming next generation, how are we thinking about it? I think it's really about mindset and about people, and it's about a matter of protecting employability of our people rather than protecting jobs per se. Jobs of today will not be around 10 years from now, if not even 5 years from now. So how are we preparing people for jobs of tomorrow? And it's really about protecting employability. And in that regard, there's two important mindsets I think that we need to pay attention to. I think, Bruno, you talked about the importance of lifelong learning. And secondly, it's about a shared sense of ownership of our future, a personal human agency. Individuals must have that agency. For example, in 2015, we launched the Skills Future initiative in Singapore. Something unique, I think, for Singapore, and I think it's a unique model that we've supported and believe in. It's about tripartism, three parties coming together, the labor unions who champion the rights of workers, the employers who also have ownership in reskilling and upskilling their workers, and the government coming in to make sure the politics are right and policies are right. So a tripartite movement building up on the skills of tomorrow. And it's really about changing mindsets. It's about catalyzing a love for learning in working adults and encouraging them to pick up new skills through various programs. I mean, we have many programs around this area, but I'd like to just highlight one, which I think is very important. For example, we're working with industry partners. One good example is working with Google. We started the Skills Ignition program in Singapore to train Singaporeans for new growth areas. And I think Ken talked about new technological innovation in cloud computing, in AI, in blockchain, many different technologies. So we can working with industry partners like Google to build up skill sets and train our workers for the future. And I think another noteworthy program is really about what we think is skills for the future through a Code for Fun enrichment program. You know, in Singapore, we always focus about academic, so we make it very clear it's coding for fun. It's not coding for exams. Coding for fun, but all primary 5 students in Singapore or upper primary students in Singapore will go through a coding program to help them to think about competition thinking, but more importantly, inspire them to have fun and really learning about the future. So a few programs you're doing, but it's about mindset, it's about people.
Thank you very much, Kiat, because these elements again, and you could see the dynamics of the discussion we're having here, echo very much what we've heard, and they give increasing practicality to what needs to be done. I'm passionate about what I've seen in Singapore about this coding for fun, and you see very young kids, actually very exciting, just to show you the Legos and make moving and the experiment they've been able to carry out successfully. Turning back to Kent, I noticed your wording answering the first question when you said technology can help. You didn't say technology will solve all your problems and make your hair grow again. So we've seen through the pandemic a number of things happening, including unforeseen challenges. Did digital tools help? What has been Google's role in trying to address these global issues?
That's right, bro. We did see that many people found online tools to be a lifeline during the COVID lockdown. There were millions of small businesses around the world using digital tools, in many cases for the first time. But we saw reports in some parts of the world, 1 in 3 businesses told us that without digital tools, they would have closed. So just as one example, there was a video mentioned, there was a story mentioned in the video about the Little Lamb School in Kenya. They have almost 2,000 students and had been forced to close, but by using collaborative tools like Google Classroom, their teachers are actually able to salvage the school year. And it seems as though online tools are going to be even more important during the comeback. Just look at the numbers. In 2020, the use of technology accelerated by 3 or 4 years in 3 or 4 months. We saw search queries for online shopping or how to buy online more than double worldwide. So it's clear that digital adoption is a big opportunity for digitally savvy emerging economies. In 2020, we launched a number of programs, digital skills training and upskilling, access to $200 million US in small loans for businesses, free ads who are worth approximately $340 million. Those kinds of programs are helpful, but there's a long way to go. In Africa, for example, only 18% of households have access to broadband. That gap represents a historic opportunity to unlock productivity. And we'll be working hand in hand with governments and with industry to ensure that we all emerge stronger from the pandemic.
Thank you again. And this figure you just gave us of how many companies would have closed without digital tools is indeed a very striking one, because I guess it affects all types of countries, rich and poor equally. Kate, last but not least, since you're here on the side of civil society and NGOs, etc., it would be important to hear your own assessment of whether civil society has proved ready for the future over the last 18 months, and how NGOs and probably other players can help.
Thanks so much for the question. I would say that that's a pretty broad question in terms of, I mean, yes. Each individual country is going to see different relationships in terms of its civil society and NGOs. What I would emphasize is that in order for us all to be future ready, to go back to something that Minister Tan said, we need to do something different with digitalization than we did with globalization, where we talked only about the benefits without talking about the challenges, and work together to solve them. So sometimes I see that in these conversations, civil society is set up against industry or against government. Instead, all voices have to be in the room and brought together. And the joy of digital tools is that you can actually do innovative crowdsourcing to bring those voices in directly. I've seen this in Singapore. I have seen this in the UAE. I have seen this in Africa. I have seen this work in Ireland. I was speaking with the minister last week. So there's an opportunity to actually use the same tools to bring civil society voices in, to design the system as we're setting them out, because that trust will be critical to build between citizens, their people, and civil society and the government.
Thank you, Kate. We're at the end of our time. So I would like you to tell me in one word, but really one word, if there was one word that the audience to this event today, you wanted to remember, what would that word be? Kent, let's say. What would be your word?
Since technology acceleration is two words, I'll make one up. How about techceleration? If we all work together, we can all grow together. So techceleration.
Okay, Kate, after techceleration, what can you suggest?
Resilience requires relationships blurred together.
Triple R. Very good. Mr. Tan.
Thank you, Bruno. It's a very difficult question. You need a PhD for this. But for me, one word, end of the day, is really about people. And it's about making sure that we are uplifting lives and uplifting human spirit using technology. And when you see that eye sparkle in a young kid, or the pride when an older senior able to use technology to do a video call with the grandchildren, I think we've done something right. So it's always about people.
And you have the last word, literally, Excellency, with Roumi.
Thank you, Bruno. My word would be now. We need to create the future now.
Excellent. So very easy summary to do. We need acceleration for resilience, being people-centric, and we need to do it now. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bruno.